Today, we're going to get into a story about reinvention, about the life you carefully build and, well, the one you thought you buried for good.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. If every secret, every single choice you ran from, suddenly just showed up on your doorstep, what then?
So, this brings us to the world of Neve. And on the surface, everything is perfect. She's the deputy headmistress at a fancy private school, living in a beautiful home in a wealthy English suburb. I mean, it's the kind of life people dream about. But you know what they say, the more perfect it looks on the outside, the more fragile it is underneath. Okay, let's break this down, because this is key. To really understand Neve, you have to first understand Cheryl. See, Neve, that's the identity she built. Privileged, respected, safe. But Cheryl, that's the identity she fled. A life of hardship she was desperate to escape. It's like two different people living in one body, separated by this massive wall of secrets. And any wall you build, no matter how strong you think it is, eventually it's gonna start to crack. For Neve, it doesn't happen all at once. It's not some big explosion. It starts with a whisper. These faint, really unsettling shadows that just start appearing at the very edges of her perfect world. At first, it's just a glimpse. Two mysterious teenagers who seem to be, well, everywhere. At the park, on the street. And the weirdest part? No one else seems to even notice them, which just ramps up this feeling that something is very, very wrong. And then it gets worse. The sightings become more frequent, more pointed. It stops feeling like a coincidence and starts feeling like she's being watched, judged even. And that paranoia just starts to creep in. You can feel her thinking, who are these people? And what could they possibly want from me? And pretty soon, it feels like they're just everywhere she looks. That feeling of being watched becomes this constant heavy weight on her shoulders. Her perfect world, her safe space, it doesn't feel like a sanctuary anymore. It feels more like a stage. And she's the only one who knows the show is about to come to a crashing halt. You know, that kind of quiet dread can only last for so long. The shadows are about to step into the light. And when they do, well, Neve's entire life is going to come crashing down around her. So here it is, the truth she tried so hard to bury. Years and years ago, when she was Cheryl, she made an impossible choice. To save herself, she left her two young children behind. She changed her name, her identity, everything. But the thing about the past, it doesn't just disappear. It just waits. And this is the moment it all shatters into a million pieces. At a school fundraiser, a very public event, she finally confronts the two strangers, Carl and Dione. And right there, in front of everyone, they call her what she is, Mother. The strangers, they're her abandoned children. What's so brilliant about this story is how it works as a piece of psychological horror. This isn't about jump scares or monsters in the closet, you know. The terror is all internal. It's the fear of being exposed, the crushing weight of her guilt, and that dawning horror when you realize the new life you've built is just as fragile as the one you ran from. So, once the truth is out, the fight is no longer just inside her mind. The past has breached the walls of her home, and now we see the slow, systematic deconstruction of the life Neve so carefully built. And make no mistake, this was not a random encounter. Carl and Dione's arrival was a calculated invasion. They take jobs at her school, embedding themselves in her world. They befriend her new children, a move designed for maximum psychological impact. They aren't just there to reconnect. They are there to force a reckoning. This is where you see the real conflict, right? You've got three people, and what they want is just completely at odds. Neve is desperate to preserve her new life, basically through denial. Carl wants vengeance, and he's not afraid to use psychological warfare. And Dione, she just seems to want the mother she never had. You throw these conflicting desires into one house, and you get an unbelievably tense, volatile situation. So her home just turns into a psychological war zone. The tension keeps climbing and climbing. Carl starts pulling strings, manipulating events, turning Neve's new family against her. He's just provoking chaos. That house, once her symbol of success and safety, becomes this pressure cooker of resentment and fear, all building towards a violent, tragic climax. In the story's devastating final act, we are forced to confront a really haunting question.
Can a person truly change? Or are we just destined to repeat the patterns we try so hard to escape?
During a final violent confrontation orchestrated by Carl, Neve's new husband is tragically killed. And in that moment of absolute chaos and what should be grief, Neve doesn't break down, no. She sees an exit.
She just slips away, escapes with a delivery driver, leaving it all behind. Her old children and her new children, the life she built and the one that found her. She runs. Again, the cycle of abandonment is complete.
Ultimately, Neve's story is this chilling exploration of what it means to escape. What it shows us is that her new, privileged life, it's just a shield. It's not an eraser for the past. It's also this really stark look at how the pressure to just fit in can become its own kind of cage. And that powerful instinct to save yourself, well, if there's no accountability, it just creates this awful, repeating cycle of abandonment. Because in the end, you just can't build a life on secrets. The truth will always, always catch up.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Neve's story is an extreme, tragic example of choosing flight over fight every single time. And it really makes you wonder, if you can't outrun your own shadow, what does it truly take to turn around and finally face it?